Good morning, dear students. Welcome to our subject, Oral Communication, Quarter 2, Week 6. I am your teacher, Rafi G. Aguilar. And before we proceed to our formal discussion this morning, don't forget to visit our official website, lcms.gaitf.com. I repeat, lcms.gaitf.com. Log in your account there. Visit the subject Oral Communication. Click the learning path for the second quarter of Oral Communication and download the PDF files I have uploaded there. After downloading, don't forget to answer the quizzes and the activities I have uploaded. So today we have a new lesson, so I guess everyone is now ready. Of course, if you are using your mobile phone, you can use headphones or headset for that, so that you can understand and listen very well to the lessons that we're going to discuss this morning. If you want to take notes, that's a better idea. You can also jot down those informations that are really important, because it might come up to your quizzes as well as your exams for the last week of this second quarter. So I guess everyone is now ready. Now let's begin to the formal discussion this morning. So our lesson for this morning is all about the types of speech style and types of speech act. So in the first quarter, we've discussed about the types of speech and the types of speech act. So we've discussed already the different types of speech style and then the speech act. Now today, we are going to dig deeper more about the speech style and the speech act. So without further ado, let's begin with the discussion. Before that, of course, allow me to read our objectives for this morning. So after going through this module, the learners are expected to: A. Distinguish types of speech style. Second, identify social situations in which each speech style is appropriate to use. Third, observe the appropriate language forms in using a particular speech style. And last but not the least, respond appropriately and effectively to a speech act. So this will be our guide for today's discussion, and we are going to obtain this or to achieve right after the discussion. So let's begin. Now let's have first the types of speech style. So what do you mean by speech style? Okay, the type of speech, no? So what are the types of speeches? Let's see. So what do you mean by speech style? Speech style, it refers to the distinctive way of communicating to others, such as the patterns of speaking, which are characterized by vocabulary, pronunciation, intent, participants, and grammatical structures. So it refers to the distinctive way. So meaning it is very visible, no? Of communicating to others. So there are patterns of speaking, characterization by vocabulary, pronunciation, intent, participants, and grammatical structures. So those are the characterization, no, in order to identify the different speech style. So let's start with the first style of speech. So there are 5 types of speech styles. What are these? First is the intimate. So what do you mean by intimate? From the word itself, intimate, meaning it is very private, no? This is a conversation of a couple or the wife and husband. So that girlfriend or boyfriend and girlfriend. So those are the an example of intimate. So what do you mean by intimate? Intimate, this style is private. So as what I told you earlier, it is private. which occurs between or among close family members or individuals. So the type of language used in this style may not be shared publicly. So meaning, it is very private. So the members of the family are the one who knows, no, or can able to understand, or they keep their conversation to be in the circle of their family only. So they are not maybe allowed to share with other people. So it's within the family. Another example is like having a conversation with the couple, no, a couple like boyfriend and girlfriend. So they have intimate conversation that may not be allowed to share with other people. So that is intimate, meaning it is very private conversation. Okay, so due to the intimacy of this speech style, we commonly use it in private. Furthermore, an intimate speech could also be grammatically incorrect at times due to its informal nature. Why is it informal nature? Because it is very private. So, additionally, nonverbal cues or messages are often used. Along with this, those involved with you on a personal level may also exchange inside jokes. But more importantly, an intimate speech is one where the word choices are often forms of endearment. Here are some examples of intimate speech. Good morning, my love. So, that's an example of intimate speech. Second is, honey, do you want me to make you your favorite dish? So, that's an example of intimate. Another, babe, you look absolutely incredible in that dress. Another one, I think we are perfect together, don't you agree, my darling? Sweetie, don't run around too fast or you might fall down. So as you can see, no, the language used there is very private. So it's between the couple or a family members knows their language or their conversation. So it should not be shared to public. So do you understand already the first type of speech, which is the intimate? So it is very private. Now let's have the second style, the casual. So what do you mean by casual? Casual, this style is common among peers and friends. Jargon, slang, or vernacular language are used. This style is usually seen in the streets during lunchtime with friends and the like. So casual, meaning it's with among peers and friends. So the conversation exists with the group of friends or peers. So they use jargon, slang, or vernacular languages, depend upon their way of communicating with each other. So example, slang, they uses words that they can understand alone. So judgment is an example of that. So they have their own language in order to understand each other. So that's an example of a casual. Jargon. So jargon, these are the words that they've used or the language they're going to use within with a group of professionals. Let's say when it is in the medicine, so they have medical terms, no, to use. So medical terms, those who are professionals in medicine, those are the one who understand. Okay, so let's have the example of a casual. Casual speech is characterized by slang, meanings or expressions that are easily understood by the communicators without being given too much information. For instance, among friends, when one says, "Hey, I saw your best friend a while ago," in a teasing manner and the listener replies sarcastically, it is most likely that the speaker is referring to the other person's enemy. Okay. So examples, phone calls, everyday conversation with friends, chats, inside jokes or friends, etc. So those are an example of casual speech style. Now let's proceed to the third style, which is the consultative. What do you mean by consultative? So, consultative, the style of speech is a standard one where professional or mutually acceptable language is a must. Examples of this are situations between teachers and students, employers and employees, doctor and patient, judge and lawyer, or president and his or her constituents. So, that's a consultative, no? The style of speech is a standard one where professional or mutually acceptable language is a must. So according to Jews, communication using the consultative style is automatic since the speaker does not prepare what he is going to say more than 3 seconds beforehand, and that the listener can interrupt the speaker at any time. Conversations between strangers, teachers and students, doctors and patients make use of the consultative style. Example, regular classroom discussions, doctor-patient. So, that's an example of consultative style. The fourth style is the formal. So, what do you mean by the formal? Formal, this type is used in settings that adhere to formal procedures. This speech style is one way in nature. Examples of these are sermons by priests and pastors, State of the Nation address of the president, formal speeches or pronouncements by the judges. The formal type of speech style often does not encourage listeners' participation or interaction among communicators. Public speaking commonly makes use of formal, informative speech. In situations where there is uncertainty in terms of receiving a favorable response, the speaker also uses this type of speech. For instance, if you are borrowing money from someone you are not close with, instead of saying, "Can I borrow, say, money?" you may say, "Money is tight these days. Could you perhaps lend me some money?" instead of saying, "I don't understand the lesson." One may say it's difficult to understand the lesson. Since the speaker is somehow detached from the message, it attempts to avoid awkward or embarrassing situations. Examples of formal, we have announcements, SONA or the State of the Nation address, welcome address, and etc. So those are the formal speeches. Now let's have the last but not the least. The fifth style of speech is the frozen. So what do you mean by frozen? Frozen, this style is frozen in time and remains unchanged. It mostly occurs in ceremonies. Common examples are the preamble of the Constitution, Lord's Prayer, and allegiance to the country of or flag. So that's it. That's a frozen. Now let's have the example of frozen. The frozen style of speech is generally used in print media, rules, or declamation. The speech is carefully planned and verbalized as it mainly relies on the use of words. This style encourages feedback or questions for clarifications from the listeners, which is why it is important that words are precise and carefully chosen. Example of that are pledges, anthems, marriage ceremonies, laws, and etc. So these styles are important in speech making because it will help you choose the appropriate approach for specific events. Picking the correct speech prevents misunderstanding and conflict. So that's the importance of the speech style. Now let's have the lesson 3, which is the types of speech act. So what do you mean by speech act? A speech act is an utterance that a speaker intends to affect his or her audience. Speech acts functions include apology, greetings, request, complaint, invitation, complaint, compliment, or refusal. Speech acts have real-life interactions and require not only knowledge of the language but also appropriate use of that language within a given culture. So that's a speech act, no? The utterance that a speaker intends to affect his or her audience. So, utterance, no? What is a speech act? So, types of speech act according to the speech act theory developer J.L. Austin on the year 1962, a language philosopher suggested that utterances have three kinds of meaning, given the right circumstances or context, which directly affects what the speaker really means. First is the locutionary act. Locutionary act is the actual act of uttering or the literal meaning of the utterance. Example, please pass your project. So that is locutionary act. Second is the elocutionary act. It is the social function of what is being said or the purpose of the person saying such words. Example, can you submit your project today? The person is requesting the listener to submit his or her project today. Number 3 is the perlocutionary act. It is the resulting act of what is said or the hearer recognizes the intention of the speaker. Example, can you submit your project today? The listener gets the point, therefore he or she would submit his or her project on that day. So that is perlocutionary act. So, under the perlocutionary act, we have the indirect speech acts. So, the indirect speech acts, these are speech acts which function does not have a direct relationship with what the speaker actually means in his or her statement. Please consider this utterance. Example, the door is still open. Implied speech act, are you capable to close the door? Here, the speaker literally questions somebody if he or she has the ability to close the door. This indirectly requests the addressee to close the door in behalf of the speaker. Now we have the performatives. The performatives, a special type of speech act which statements with verbs to execute the speech act that intend to affect. Performative speech acts only work when said by the authoritative person. For instance, in a wedding, the priest would say, I now pronounce you man and wife, and the organization's president shall say to end up a meeting, the meeting is adjourned. So, that is performatives. So, this is according to Charles' classification of the locutionary speech act. So, this figure illustrates the aspects of speech act. So, the speech act theory by J.L. Austin. So, under that, we have the three. The locutionary act, the elocutionary act, and the perlocutionary act. So, the locutionary act, what is said. The elocutionary act, what is meant. And the perlocutionary act, what is understood. So, those are the speech act theory according to J.L. Austin. So, Charles' classification of elocutionary speech act. As a response to Austin's speech act theory, John Charles, 1976, a university professor of California, Berkeley, has 5 general classifications of speech act, and they are the following. First is the assertive. What do you mean by assertive? Assertive, the speech act grants the speaker to convey his or her view that the proposal made is correct. The examples are suggesting, putting forward, swearing, boasting, and concluding. Example, I make the best cake in town. Second one is the directive. What do you mean by directive? In this speech act, the speaker tries to make the addressee do what is being asked. Some examples of this include asking, ordering, requesting, inviting, advising, and begging. So example, please come tomorrow morning for the meeting. So you are begging, that is directive. Third one is the commissive. So what do you mean by commissive? Commissive, this speech act compasses the speaker to make future actions, example, promises and oaths. Example, starting today, I will never comment negatively about a post on a Facebook. So you are promising, no? You are oath. So that is an example of commissive. The fourth one is the expressive. What do you mean by expressive? Expressive, this speech act allows the speaker to express his feelings and attitudes. These are words that expresses gratitude or thanks, congratulating, apologizing, welcoming, and deploring. So that is expressive. Example, I appreciate your effort in solving this problem. Good job. It's a very nice job. So meaning, you are expressive, no? The next is the declaration. So declaration, this speech act brings a change in the external situation. So some examples of declarations are baptizing, firing, bidding, wedding, and blessing. So example, I now pronounce you husband and wife. That is declaration. So I guess that's all for today, class. Thank you for having your time with me. And I hope that you've learned something for today's discussion. Before we end up this lesson, of course, don't forget to visit our official website, download the PDF files, answer the quizzes and activities I have uploaded there. And of course, don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel so that you are updated on our next YouTube videos. So that's all for today, class. Thank you for having your time and stay safe always. Bye.